Okay, if we continue now on and we move on, just to reiterate and just to confirm what we just talked about, there are seven schools of management thought, and these are showed in the evolvement of thinking behind it. The most important aspect of this is for you to realise that when you're doing your research, you consider which school your topic comes under and what perspective you may consider doing. You can yourselves do more reading around the area, and if you read the chapter in the core textbook by Easterby Smith et al., you'll see that there is more detail about this. Right, we move on. The following table in front of you shows you the different views of management, the period of dominance it was a debate within it, and also the key features and type of theory it comes under. Right, this framework is really important because it allows you to consider which school of thought you're going to be in, but also what type of research that you may consider for your toolkit. So if we start off first of all with the classical view of management, the period as it says there, 1910 to 1950s, and it focused on the key functional activities of management. Nowadays we will classify them as departments, but also we'll classify them as well as the role of management. Going back to what I said previously about coordination, planning, organising, etc. This comes under a normative theory perspective because it's to do with what managers do. Okay, so it's about what managers do within their functional activity. Now, of course, this has evolved over time, and now within the management circles, we have a variety of different managers doing different roles. Managers is more than just a general role. It could be a manager with a specific topic area, for example, a marketing manager, a purchasing manager, a HR manager, for example. If you look at human relations school in the 1940s and 1970s, as it says in the table, it's much more about motivating people and managing change. Again, that's normative because it's about how managers motivate and how managers ensure change processes go ahead. Going back to the classical theory within this school, which is the Hertzberg two-factor theory, it looks at hygiene and motivating factors. However, there are other aspects of motivation within this which you can consider. For example, you could look at Adams equity theory, for example. If we move on to decision theory, the 1950s and 1970s, this is about that optimizing decisions, which comes under the analytic type because it's more to do with taking a particular theoretical perspective about the work and the expense of others within it. So this could look at how processes and changes within the management role can actually have an impact on the behaviour or the way things are done in the workplace. If you look at the work activity view of management, basically what managers do, this is descriptive because it looks at what managers do in practice. So it gives an overview about what managers are doing on a day-to-day basis. A good aspect of this would be possibly looking at storytelling and looking at how managers say what they do. There's a predominant literature within this field which looks at managerial stories. Now, we move on to the competency-based, the 1980s review. The skills required for effective performance, the normative approach. This is normative because, again, it looks at what managers should do and how they should do their work. Now, there are plenty of professional bodies out there, both within all the professions, human resource management, marketing, management itself, leadership. All these professional bodies identify competencies, skill sets, and in some cases, behavioural sets that are required for managers to do their jobs. I would recommend to you that you could look at a number of these professional bodies, and in fact in the workshop next week we probably will look at these in more detail to give yourself a bit of a flavour behind what type of competency sets may exist. I know for my own professional body, which is the CIPD, the Chartered Institute of Personal Development, they have a quite clear set of competencies that require people within human resources. Okay, let's move on to the critical perspective of view of management, which is all about social construction and politics, which again is analytic. All the literature written in this area has a very sort of theoretical underpinning, it has a very philosophical underpinning about what managers should do, and it's supported and underpinned by the idea about political behaviour and power within an organisation. Now, it comes under social construction because it's related to the fact that managers deal with people on particular contexts. So it's about how it expects. It moves away from the rational approach to management, which is predominant in the classical school, and it looks at how managers make meaning behind what they do. Again, the storytelling narrative approach is predominant within this type of research. And some of the research that's done in this area is quite interesting because you'll see sense making, story making, and the whole idea about managers trying to make meaning and understanding behind why they do what they do. Right. Then we go into the process area, which is about learning and strategizing, which is a combination between analytic and normative because it looks at theoretical perspectives, looks at theoretical models and underpinning behind how managers can learn and how they can have organizational learning, etc., and knowledge creation and embedment within the organizational structures. But also looks at the idea about strategy, both from a corporate perspective, but also in broader terms from perspectives such as human resource strategy or corporate strategy or marketing strategy. It's normative because it also looks at what managers do in their day-to-day work to ensure learning goes on and strategy goes on. Now, this is a very important area because this combines and in some ways captures the involving essence of what's going on. Now, even though you see the periods of dominance within this table, that's not to say that these schools have disappeared. They're still there. It's just the evolution of management research. You'll see in business management research that as you do more research in these areas, you'll see how you add to the debate, and in the end, what you need to be aware of for your toolkit is having a flavour of where your topic area falls within and how you are going to add knowledge to that through the development of your research. Now, we'll talk a bit more about that in the next lecture, which is on about literature and how you can review literature and how you can critique literature. Right. If I move on. Right. I've given you an overview and a flavour of the sort of like context behind management and management theory. There's a great deal more you could read, and I will give you some suggested readings and I'll give you some ideas about that within the workshop next week. However, as this is a research-based module, you are expected to do research and you're expected to have particular types of skills. I now want to talk to you a bit more about the research skills that you require to have. Now, these can be categorized into knowledge and awareness, skills and abilities, and personal qualities, and you can see in the table in front of you. Now, in the workshop, we're going to have opportunity for you to test and grade where you think you are at a particular moment in time, and we're going to have a discussion and debate about why you think where you are. But if we just take the knowledge and awareness aspect first of all, you can see that these have a range of areas in it. And I would not want to talk about all of these, but I want to focus on one particular element. I want to talk about the key networks and contacts in chosen research area. Now, you're going to have to design a toolkit. So you're going to have to get access to an organization as a case study or a group